Hi guys, my name is Angela Tata and today I'm going to walk you through the basics of MLA formatting. As you can see, the four main things I'm going to cover today are an introduction to MLA style, how to use in-text citations, the formats of the works cited page, as well as some common MLA mistakes and how to solve them. I'll get through each of these step by step, starting with what MLA is. And just to get this out of the way, MLA unfortunately does not stand for my last assignment. I wish it did though. Class would be much easier. Before we get into the details, let's start with what MLA format actually is. MLA is a standard citation format for humanities subjects like literature, languages, and cultural studies. Its main goal is to make source documentation clear and consistent so readers can easily find the materials you reference. It is also mentioned that MLA is currently in its 9th edition, released in 2021, which simplified some older rules while keeping the main principles the same. MLA supports academic integrity, helps you properly credit original authors, allows readers to verify your claims, and prevents plagiarism by separating your ideas from your sources. That's why most undergraduate literature and composition courses require MLA formatting. Now that we know what MLA is, let's look at how to actually set up an MLA formatted paper. MLA has a very specific layout, but once you've done it, it becomes super easy. Here are the main things you need. Your paper should be double-spaced from top to bottom. Use 1-inch margins on all sides. The standard font is Times New Roman, size 12. In the top right corner, you need a header with your last name and the page numbers. At the end of your paper, you'll have a works cited page with hanging indents. Your title should be centered with no bold, no underline, and no fancy fonts. The setup is the foundation of MLA. Once your paper looks like this, everything else becomes much easier. Now let's talk about how MLA in-text citations actually work. MLA in-text citations are short references inside your paragraph that point to your works cited page. They usually include the author's last name and the page number. For example, Smith 45. If you already mentioned the author in your sentence, then you only need the page number. If a source has 2 authors, you list both. If it has 3 or more authors, you use at all. If there is no page number, you use the organization's name instead. And if there is no author at all, you shorten the title. MLA also has a rule for indirect sources, which is when the author you want to quote is being quoted inside another article. In that case, you use quoted in. These short citations tell your reader exactly where your information came from without interrupting your writing. Now let's go over some important MLA rules for placement and punctuation. First, the citation always goes before the period, not after it. MLA also recommends using signal phrases, like according to Smith or Smith argues that. These help your writing flow more naturally and make your citations feel less repetitive. If you're using more than one source in the same sentence, you separate them with semicolons. Last rule mentioned is the hanging indent. A hanging indent means the first line on each works cited entry starts at the margin, and every line after that is indented by ½ inch. So if a citation wraps into a second line, that second line should be indented. This keeps the works cited page neat, organized, and easy to read. Now let's look at the general structure of a works cited entry. MLA gives you a specific order for the pieces of information you need, and each source type follows the same pattern. Every entry begins with the author's name, written with the last name first. Then you include the title of work, which is italicized if it's a book or journal, and placed in quotation marks if it's an article. After that, you list the container or publication information, which can include things like the journal name, volume, issue date, and page numbers. The slide also shows that MLA may include the medium of publication, like print or web, although the 9th edition often treats this as implied. And finally, if the source is digital, you add the DOI or URL at the end. The structure helps readers locate your source easily and keep the works cited page consistent. Now that we've gone over the general structure of a works cited page, this slide shows what those entries look like in real MLA format. The main idea is that each source follows a consistent pattern, and once you recognize that pattern, it should be easier to format anything, whether it's a journal, article, book, website, or even a film. Moving into how to correctly use direct quotations in MLA format. For short quotations, So anything under 40 words, they should be blended smoothly into your sentence and placed inside quotation marks. But if your quotation is longer than 40 words, it becomes a block quote. Block quotes are indented, double-spaced, and they do not use quotation marks. You can also use ellipses to show that you removed a part of the quote, but only when it doesn't change the meaning. Brackets lets you add your own clarification inside a quotation, for example, adding a missing word or explaining a pronoun. Finally, every direct quotation must be followed by an MLA citation immediately after it. That keeps your writing clear, accurate, and easy for readers to verify. We're looking at some of the most common MLA formatting mistakes students make, along with their correct solutions. The first mistake is including sources in the works cited page that you never actually used in your paper. If you didn't cite it in your writing, it shouldn't appear on the works cited page. Another frequent issue is inconsistent headings or missing page numbers. MLA requires your last name, page number in the header of every page. The slides also highlights mistakes with capitalization in titles. MLA uses title case, meaning you capitalize all titles' major words. Another big mistake is forgetting to cite paraphrased material. Even if you put the idea in your own words, you still need a citation. And finally, some students mix different citation styles. To avoid this, always follow the MLA Handbook 9th edition. That brings all of us to the end of the presentation. But hey, at least now you know enough to lose a few points instead of all of them. Thanks for listening. Love y'all.